there, good morning. So I'm looking at our Knowledge for Good GitHub repository. So within our organization, Knowledge for Good, we have what's called a repository. That's also called Knowledge for Good, just no spaces, no hyphens. And I'm going to show you share my screen with you and show you what that looks like. On my screen, I have dark mode enabled, so you'll see it with dark mode, but if you are looking on your own computer, this will probably all be a light theme screen. These are some files we have here. Down here is the readme. It's kind of like our splash page, whatever, kind of like who we are, what we do. What I want to take your attention to today is the Issues tab. So if I click on Issues here, and that navigates to github.com/knowledge-for-good with hyphens /knowledge-for-good, no hyphens, /issues. And I'll probably share this link too, but it's easy to get to from our Knowledge for Good page. You just click on the Issues tab. So within here, we have this bucket of items. They're called issues. They could be questions, they could be to-dos, they could be projects, anything we want to keep our mind on. However, right now we have 49 open issues. That's quite a bit. 18 closed. You know, we're working through them. The goal here is to be able to store information that's relevant to what we're doing, what we need to do, and what we want to do, maybe what we've done, and not get overwhelmed by it. In fact, it's supposed to help and not hurt. So right now, at this point in time, I see that there are some issues without labels. That's probably not correct. And I believe there are some issues without milestones as well. Right now on this page, I can't see if an issue has been assigned what's called a milestone. That would be like some sort of either deadline or just kind of some sort of, again, the difference between a label and a milestone is a little bit hard for me to say, other than milestones can have deadlines. Otherwise, they could be synonymous. Let's just say, for example, I want to focus on organization setup. So all these, if I click on this milestones drop down and then I check this org setup here, I'm only seeing the 6 currently open issues. Right now it says here, and we're looking, there's this filters bar right here. It says filters is open. So all the issues that are open is an issue. So we're looking at issues only right now. Under the milestone org setup. So you could type this out yourself if you want to. But these are issues. Let's say I wanted to just keep my mind on what are org setup issues. This may not be the full list here. There may be some orphaned issues that need to be in here. For right now, I'm going to focus on going through these 6 issues. Let's say I was just focusing on these 6 issues and making sure that they had the attention they need to move further down their journey to, let's say, completion, a resolution. Usually you can say an issue is resolved when it's done. So you may have some questions about what these labels are, like epic and question or attention requested. You know, I've got 3 attention requested. Whose attention is being requested? Good questions. These questions, you can ask these questions as a new issue. You can always make a new issue to ask more questions. For right now, I want to see that things that are tasks have time assigned to them. That's what right now, I'm inspired. I think it's a good thing if we have a task that we say, hey, this is roughly, I'm just going to guesstimate and say, this is probably a 30-minute task. This is probably an hour task. It might be more than an hour. If it's a project, it might be 3 hours or more. I'm not going to try to put times on everything. I'm just going to try and put on a rough, this is going to take half an hour, an hour, or more. So right now, looking at this first issue, it's an epic, means it's a combination of other issues. I'm just going to click on this. The issue, it's an epic issue that says make epic issue for questions. So this issue itself, when I clicked on it, it opens up and says from this discussion. So we were talking about whether we should be a cooperative or nonprofit, and our decision was both, to become a cooperative nonprofit. These questions here are all right now marked in green. That just means they have not yet been answered. They're still open. So all these questions could be looked at, and you could leave an answer. You could say, hey, this is how I feel about this. Could these questions be discussions? Sure, they could be. But right now, I felt that it was good to convert them into issues, and that gives a little bit of more accountability, a little bit more, hey, we see this as resolved or not resolved, answered or unanswered. There's a little bit of history here that Linnea closed the issue a few days ago after she converted the issues to the discussions to issues. And that makes sense that she closed it because it was done. And then I thought, maybe this would be useful to keep our eyes on. So that's why I reopened it. So I reopened the issue. You can always close an issue and reopen an issue as many times as you feel necessary. That's okay that there's some back and forth. And that's not meant to be like, oh, Linnea, you were wrong. She was right. And then also, I believe there was still more value, and I wanted to have a little more attention. So I requested that we open it again. And I put some more questions down here. So how does answering any of these questions help us move towards registering? It might be that we as an organization look at these questions and say, these questions are not blocking questions. It would be great to answer, but they don't need to be answered. It might depend on the day. You know, some days we feel like we need a little more clarity, and some days we're like, you know what, let's just do this. We don't need all the answers. We don't need all the clarity. I think that depends on how confident we're feeling, how risk averse we're feeling. It depends on, you know, how much we do know and how much experience we have. I have very little experience starting a nonprofit, whereas I would say Linnea has a little more experience, a little more context in the nonprofit space. Coincidentally, on this question out here, so these questions are really orphan questions. I'll just say this out here, that these questions, I think they should be their own issues. This is an issues page, which doesn't mean you can't have discussion. You can have discussions on an issue page. However, these questions are not clearly logged as answered, not answered. So to give a little bit of greater window insight into this is an important question and we want it answered or not, I'm going to take these questions out and convert them to their own issues. So I'm just copying and pasting them out. If you can see that. And I'll just set for myself a to-do in my own notepad, convert the following 3 questions into issues. And I'll say these are from issue number 87. So I can go ahead and make those. And I'll do that right now so you can see what it's like to make an issue. And I'm going to do it in a particular way so you can see. I'm going to comment here what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, I will move these bottom 3 questions out of here and into their own individual question issue posts. Question issues. Individual issues. And I don't have to remove them. That's fine. They're just text there now. They were just text, and they will stay just text. And now I'm going to go make a new issue. Remembering that this is issue 87, I can just copy this question over, and I can say inspired by issue number And you can see that I get this little pop-up here. When I do # and then number, I get a little readout of that issue. That's really cool. This is the bidirectional linking. So basically I'm saying this issue that I'm making this question here, how does answering these questions move us towards registering? The context here is that it came from issue 87. So it's really important that that context remains. And I'm creating that context right now by linking these two together. So if I submit new issue, back in our issues page, well, it shows the issue firstly, the new issue. If I go back to our issues tab, I'm sorry, my internet's a little slow at the moment. There we go. Just clicking on issues here for a moment. I'm going to scratch this out over here in my notepad just so I see that I saved it. Looking here at all of our open issues, you can see that this, how does answering these questions help move us towards registering, is saved here in our issues list. And if I click on it, you can see that it has this link to these epic issues for questions. I'm going to do one more step further, but I'll do it afterwards. So I'm just going to go ahead and make these 3 issue questions. So click on the green button again, new issue. Again, this is inspired by issue 87. So I don't have to manually write out what the issue name was. I just have to write the number. It's very convenient. Submit it. One more time, new issue. I'm going to go ahead and copy this just so I don't have to manually write it out. Oops, that's a link. Very interesting. Yeah, it creates a link for us. Nice. Okay. And lastly, this question, what happens if we don't agree on a point? And I'll one more time paste in the body text right there, and submit new issue. So we've gone ahead and created these 3 new issues. They don't have any labels on them. I can now that I've created all these 3, I can actually, just like in an email inbox, I can select all 3 at the same time. Now click on this label dropdown, and find some appropriate labels to give a little more context. So these are questions. And, I could say attention requested. Attention requested, I think, is, I'm understanding attention request is just kind of like saying, like, hey, pay a little more attention to me than you would have otherwise, I'm not going to elevate the attention level on these guys. They're questions. If someone sees them and has an answer for them, that's great. You could say, hey, I don't have the answers, but I would love to facilitate a brainstorming session. So for example, how does answering any of these questions move us towards registering? If someone came in and saw this issue, not me, let's say, for example, they might say something like, for starters, how about we do an auto focus session and try to identify some of the key important critical questions for starters to reduce the amount of I'm just going to put in quotes, question fatigue. I'm happy to facilitate such a session. So this is, there's a proposal here essentially, right? So at this point, I would be waiting for, what does someone else think? Is someone else interested? It's still a question, but I'll put the attention requested on here. I mean, there's some sort of decision to be made. I don't want to schedule it yet until I know that people are interested. And I'll put on here synchronous. That means that you'd be doing it together in real time. It doesn't actually have to be together in real time. I'll take that off. So let's see. This is a question which has a proposal. I'll just say has proposal. So I'm actually making a new label right now, has proposal. And then my thinking is, by putting this has proposal on here, someone's going to say, hey, that sounds like a great idea. Let's do that. Or that's cool if you want to do that. I'm not particularly interested to participate actively in that, but go ahead and do that. Or someone might be like, that's cool if you want to do that, but I have some concerns. Let me share with you my concerns before you go ahead and spend however much time or energy on something that is concerning me. I want you to make sure you know my concerns. So I feel like this issue has a lot, this question and issue has a lot of attention from me. I don't feel inspired to assign this to anyone, but this question is waiting for an answer from whom, right? So I'm going to say it's probably better when I ask a question that I add someone. So here it says, for starters, how about we do an autofocus session and try to identify, I'll just put in here at seek and define to Linnea. Are you interested to join in such an autofocus? And she knows what I mean by autofocus. And I'll just call it a jam, a hangout where you just like talk out through some items and find out what is the priority that rises. What is the priority that we identify? What are the priorities that we find? So I have some ideas about async decisions, but I want to go back to my original intent, which was to just look at, and I've got about 15 minutes left with you guys right now. I want to make this just a 30-minute session. That was my goal. I'm going to look at org setup again and see that we still have these 6 issues, because right now this milestone of organization setup only had these 6 issues. I wanted to touch briefly on each of them and see what, if I could do one small tiny thing to move them forward towards resolution, what that would be. So let me put that again down here, just kind of this as the guiding question. What is one tiny thing I can add to move this issue towards resolution? That's my guiding question, right? How can I leave this better than I found it? Sometimes some issues, there's nothing I can think of that I can add to improve on that, and that's fine. I just leave it, let it be. But more often than not, I feel like, if I look at a given issue, if there is something I know about it, or if there's something I feel about it, there's usually something I can add that will hopefully improve, add some context, for example, right? So like going back, just going to take one last look at the make epic issue for questions. This has really changed to let's keep an eye on all these questions. I'm going to go ahead and add these 3 question issues from down below. They're actually logged already down here because I mentioned the issue. In that case, I'm going to leave them as is. But I want to bring someone's attention to these issues to see that, oh, by the way, when you mention an issue in an epic, or you mention an epic issue in a non-epic issue. So like the epic distinction is arbitrary. I just said, hey, this is a collection. I just made a checklist, a list of issues. I want to call this an epic. So that way people know this is not, don't sit down thinking you're going to finish an epic in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. No, this is just like, hey, from a high level bird's eye overview, we got all these issues. This is a nice way, kind of, it's like, I'm going to cluster all this into one thing. It's really, for the mind, I think it's really nice. It reduces my, I don't have to look at each one of these individual questions. I can just say, oh, these are all green. scroll down. Oh, 3 more green guys. Okay, cool. So for now, I think I'm gonna just leave this be. I would like to change this name though to give it a little more clarity. I'm gonna try to change this to. I'm just gonna call this epic issue of questions to find answers for. We just say questions, but we don't want these questions to just sit here forever. I hope that these questions will ask us to answer them. So just just calling this, going back to milestones drop down here, not this up here in the upper right, but click on org setup. That this very clearly is, oh, it's an epic issue of questions. It's a thing. Let's go down to the next one here. I could say, this epic could use a little more attention because these guys have been sitting and not getting answers for some time. But that brings me some inspiration. How about we schedule some time? So some ideas here is, how about we schedule some time? You can ask the question, or you can just do it. You can just schedule some time. That's, why ask when you can just do? So I'll just put here, schedule time, or invite people to schedule together. The inviting is slower, but it might feel nicer for you. I'm going to suggest that scheduling, just going ahead and putting something on the calendar, might be more effective. And it's okay if, the first scheduling doesn't work as intended. As long as you put that intention out there, hey, this is important. I believe this is important. Let's make some time for it. So I'm going to put a label on here, schedule this. So later down the line, and I'll leave a mental note here, not mental note, a written note here. I'll say, inspect issues with the label schedule this, to put time on the calendar and invite collaborators. So I'm moving this issue forward. I added a little bit of context that I believe we should put some time on the calendar to move this forward. And I can say that specifically. I'd like very much for us to put some time on the calendar. Don't have to say it, but it doesn't hurt to, write it out in a full sentence somewhere. Hopefully on the issue that's related. I'd very much like for us to put some time on the calendar. I intend to do so today. I think this will up our motivation and help us determine which questions are particularly pressing and which ones perhaps we can archive for now. Archive or postpone. Just archive or postpone. Yeah. That way, we can move this issue closer towards resolution. It's a big one, right? It's an epic. Going back to the org, I'd like to go the org issues, org setup issues, I should say. Let's go down to register as a co-op, which was blocked. We said it was blocked. These guys here needed to be converted to issues. The first one is that list of questions. So there's an epic within an epic. This is also an epic. Let's see here. Has this been converted to issues? I don't believe so. So I'm going to say that there's two things that I would really like to see happen here, and might just try to go ahead and do one of them. One of them is add context. So for example, name. This apparently, there was another nonprofit. There is another nonprofit named Knowledge for Good. We may be calling ourselves Knowledge for Good Cooperative. But there's this really convenient button here. It says convert to issue. Whoa. So I might just try and see if I can convert this checklist to issues. But I would like very much that these names be clear. So complete and file articles of incorporation. This is clearly an actionable. I like that as an issue. Not all issues need to be actionables, but if it is a task, I want it to be clear in what it is you're being asked to do. So I'll just click this button, convert to issue, and see what happens. This is little. All right, name. I'm going to change this to, I'm going to edit this and say, decide on our name. That's clear, a little bit clear. Incorporators are registered needed. Determine if incorporators, I'll just put that in quotes, or registered agents are needed. I don't know how to do that, but that sounds like a clear question to me. Choose which state to file in. Okay. Fee dollars question mark. Let's see, maybe it would be determine and pay necessary fees. What are and where to pay, and then pay. Okay. Draft bylaws. Electing officials, question mark. Determine if we need to elect officials. Do if we need to. Look at legal resources for nonprofits in specific state. So that looks like a research. And it's not clear to me what action is necessary other than just like looking at them. It might be evident to others. I'm about strapped for time here, so I'm just going to write here, research legal resources for nonprofits in specific state. This sounds like it would be like after we've chosen which state. So some of these may be sub-issues of each other, right? Like, or maybe we'll look at multiple states, determine the legal resources in multiple states, and then make our decision. But for now, I'll just not worry about making it a sub-issue. And then how to attach to apply for federal. So find out, figure out how to attach to apply for federal tax exemptions. Set meeting times, set regular meeting times as needed. And there's a question, what standard corporate formalities for meeting need to be followed? So this is another question. I believe this question could be added back to the important related questions. I'm just going to go ahead and do that. That may or may not be a good thing that I'm doing, but think no information will be lost because I'm moving it over. So this is issue 60. And I'm going to go over an 87 and add that question over here. And I'm going to take this body, the explanation, Oh, and it looks like actually that there are more. There were more to-dos down here that I didn't that I accidentally took that I shouldn't have taken. So I'm going to try to move them back in the next minute. So I'm just going to update this comment here. Edit number 2. Edit 2. I moved the last question here from I think it was 60. Right, and let me just improve the formatting there for these edits. That looks a little nicer here. So this question from issue 60 came over here. And then I realized I took too much from 60, this to-do list, this checklist here. I'm going to put some items back, which is apply for FAIN and federal tax exemption, register as a charity, may need to be reviewed annually, review annual compliance requirements. I'm just going to put these guys in parentheses. So I thought these guys were comments for the last question, but they were not. They were just more to-dos. So I'm going to go ahead and just click convert to issue for all these guys, and then call this a task done. This was one of the tasks, which is to convert all of these checklists to issues. So I'm just going to click convert. This coincidentally we've already done, I believe. Convert. What a convenient button here. Convert to issue. That way I don't have to copy paste. And this issue, issue 60, register as a co-op, is already conveniently holding all this information together. It's very convenient for project management. And we can determine later that these checklist items need to happen in some sort of order, or they don't. They can happen in any order, as long as we do them all, and we might find that some of them don't need to be done at all. But in this case, decide on our name. I happen to know. I don't want to leave, with an issue that is open that I know is very much, I believe, for now, resolved. So I clicked on issue 125, and I can just say, I believe we have resolved this issue for now, marking as closed. And just click here on close with comment. So this issue you might think is hidden and may or may not see it anymore. It is archived now. But if I go back over to issues, go back on milestones and click org setup, register as a co-op is still here. This is still an epic. This is still open. There's still open issues on here. And if I click on here, you can see just this one issue, 125 now, decide on our name, that was done. And I might think here, it would be nice to put that brainstorm on there, right? As another, it would be nice. So I can say, seek and define, linear. Would you like us to attach the name brainstorming session here for convenience? This is a closed issue. I think it's resolved for now. However, if and when she sees this, is very low, I believe, low priority right at the moment. If and when she sees this, she can say, hey, yeah, I'd like that. That would be nice. That would improve our project. It would make it easier for future collaborators, future contributors to understand the context in which we came to our name. I could also attach it, but I got to run, and I hope that me showing how you can search by milestone, filter by milestones. You can also filter by labels if I just want to look at the questions to see open questions. Hopefully all these guys that are questions are labeled as questions. It might be that some things that are questions are not labeled as such, and that would be room for improvement, you know? Epic list of questions to find answers for. The epic is marked. But are these individual questions all marked as questions? If I just click on this first question link here, no question on here. So I would go here and click labels, just type QUE. It's not really, oh, there it is, because there's all these other QUE things here. I'll just click on question. Right, so this is a question where I put an answer, I put another answer, I asked another question. Definitely would like some more attention from, and I'm going to assign Linnea to this and just say she's in charge of this. Right now, I'm going to assign her to this. So you can assign people, you can put labels, you can add milestones. This milestone of, you know, should every employee be paid the same? I'll say that this is definitely an org setup thing. I could also just say it doesn't need to be put under a milestone, but this is an important question, I think. For me, it's not a matter of whether employees should be paid the same. I think they should, but the matter, I think, is more of how. Are we just going to give everyone, you know, we'll just say, hey, if you contribute up to this amount, we'll pay you this amount. If you contribute more, do more, open more, you know, close more issues or spend more time, we'll compensate you more. We're compensating you for the amount of time and energy and effort and change versus anyone who's contributing somewhere between part-time and full-time hours, you get full-time compensation. I would like something simple, you know. So, you know, this might warrant some brainstorming, for example. So, you know, I could put on here brainstorming or brainstorming requested, you know. I would love us to do some further research, brainstorming, or discussion on this to find a satisfying path forward that we can all consent to enthusiastically. On that note, I'm going to call it a session. Thank you very much. All right, I'll see you guys later. Bye. Oh, if you have any questions, please, please, please go over to issues on this, what I've just said here today. I hope if you had any questions, you wrote them down and can share them here or wherever you feel is clear, closest to your question. If you had a question about issue 115, leave that question there. But if you have a question about this video or this demo, I invite you to open a new issue. All right, have a good one. See you.